My name is Ethan Miller, and even now, when I think about that night, my breathing changes. It's like my lungs forget how to work. Most people don't believe in ghosts. They laugh at stories about things that move in the dark. I used to be one of them, but after what I saw that night, I don't drive alone after midnight anymore. This happened on Highway 191 in Arizona. I had just left a late business meeting and was driving back from Utah. Highway 191 was the shorter route. It would save me almost an hour. At the time, it felt like a smart decision. Looking back, it was the biggest mistake of my life. 11:47 p.m. Everything seemed normal at first. It was dark, sure, but my SUV's headlights were strong. The road stretched ahead of me, empty and silent. On both sides, forest. The kind of silence so deep, you can hear your own breathing inside the car. Then something strange happened. A thin layer of fog started forming across the road. That wouldn't have been unusual, except the weather report had said the skies were completely clear. I turned on the radio. Nothing but static. No stations. Not even a flicker of signal. It felt almost intentional, like the road didn't want sound. "Fine," I muttered. "I'll just use my phone." No service. 0 bars. That's when I noticed something to my right. Between the trees. Something moving. Tall. Thin. Keeping pace with my car. "It's just an animal," I told myself. Probably a deer. But it didn't move like one. And deep down, something felt wrong. As I approached a long curve in the road, the steering wheel suddenly felt heavy, like something was resisting me. And then, the engine died. Just like that, the SUV rolled to a stop, right in the middle of the highway. No streetlights, no houses, just darkness and forest. I turned the ignition again. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Cold air started creeping in through the cracked window. A chill ran through my arms. And then, in the beam of my headlights, someone was standing in the middle of the road, facing away from me. A man, maybe, but something about the way he stood. Too stiff, too straight. I quickly rolled up the window. Slowly, very slowly, the figure began to turn. And what I saw, I've never seen a face like that before. It wasn't human, or at least not normal. The face was unnaturally long. Its eyes were deep black pits, like holes carved into bone. And its mouth, it stretched across its face, like a torn wound pulled too wide. But the worst part, its legs, they were bent backward, like they had been twisted the wrong way. I couldn't move. My fingers were frozen on the steering wheel. The thing started walking toward my car. Each step made a cracking sound, like dry bones grinding together. I tried the ignition again. "Please, start, please." I was whispering it over and over. And then, the engine roared back to life. I slammed the gas pedal without thinking. The SUV shot forward. But when I glanced into the rearview mirror, my spine turned to ice. It was running after me, faster than any human could. I was already at 70 miles per hour, and it was keeping up. Its movements were jerky, violent. Each step sounded like wood snapping against pavement. I pushed the speed to 90. My hands were shaking. And then, just like that, it disappeared into the darkness. Gone. But I didn't slow down. Not for miles. A few miles later, I saw something flickering ahead. A neon sign. Grand Mesa Motel. In the middle of nowhere. At that hour. It didn't make sense. But I needed to stop. I needed water. I needed to breathe. I needed to convince myself I wasn't losing my mind. I pulled into the motel parking lot. Even after turning off the engine, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The neon light buzzed overhead. The entire place felt abandoned. I sat there for a few seconds. Then I took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. The motel looked old. The walls were damp and stained. The number plates above the doors were cracked, some barely hanging on. But the lights inside were on. At least someone was there. That's what I told myself. I walked toward the reception office. When I pushed the door open, a small bell above it rang. The smell of old tobacco filled the air. Behind the counter stood an elderly man, wrinkles across his forehead, red, tired eyes, and a strangely calm expression. He stared at me, without blinking. "Late night drive?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "My car stalled. I just need a room for a few hours." He slowly picked up a key and slid it across the counter. "Room 7, the corner one," he said. Then he added, "Not many people stop here anymore." I don't know why, but the way he said that didn't feel normal. I took the key and walked back outside. Room 7. The moment I opened the door, a wave of stale moisture and old would hit my nose. The room was small. One bed, one table, an outdated lamp, and a single window in the corner. I stepped inside and shut the door behind me. As soon as I turned the lock, I had the sudden feeling that someone was standing outside, right there, listening. I leaned forward and looked through the peephole. Nothing. Empty hallway. I exhaled slowly and tried to calm myself down. I sat on the edge of the bed and took a sip of water. After a few minutes, I checked my phone again. Still no signal. No bars. No Wi-Fi. Just a few hours. I whispered to myself. I'll leave at sunrise. I reached to turn off the lamp. That's when I heard it. A faint sound from the window. Top. I froze. Slowly, I turned my head toward it. Another soft sound. I stood up carefully and walked toward the window. My hand hesitated before pulling the curtain aside. Outside, nothing but darkness. The forest line barely visible. I let out a shaky breath. Probably just wind, I told myself. I turned around to walk back. And then I saw them. Fingerprints. Clear. Fresh. On the outside of the glass. Long. Unnaturally long. As if someone with extended fingers had pressed their hand against the window. My breathing quickened. I backed away and slid down against the wall beside the bed. The room was silent, but it wasn't a peaceful silence. It felt occupied, like something else was inside. Not moving, not breathing, just present. 1:30 a.m. That's when I heard it. A faint rustling sound. From under the bed. Like fabric being dragged slowly across the floor. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. I aimed it toward the floor. Nothing. The sound came again. Slower this time. Moving. Toward me. I stepped away from the bed and stood near the corner, gripping my phone tight. I bent down slightly and aimed the light under the bed. Empty. Just dust and darkness. I lowered the phone and started to stand up. The bed shifted. Just slightly. Like someone had climbed onto it, or pushed it from underneath. I jumped back. My heart slammed against my ribs. A few seconds passed. Stillness. Then, the window shook violently, like someone had slammed into it with full force. I rushed toward it and yanked the curtain aside. First, only darkness, but then I saw it. A silhouette, tall, head slightly tilted forward. The exact same shape I had seen on the highway. Standing a few feet from the window, watching me, my legs locked. I forgot how to breathe. It began stepping closer, slowly, deliberately, and with every step, the glass trembled again. I backed away, one step at a time. The room lights started flickering, buzzing softly. In the brief flashes of light, I saw its face, that same elongated structure, deep black eye sockets, a mouth stretched too wide across its face, and its legs, bent backward, wrong, completely wrong, tilted its head to one side, staring at me through the glass. Then, it raised both hands, and placed its fingers against the window, those same long, unnatural fingers. Couldn't scream. My throat felt sealed shut, and suddenly, silence, complete silence. In the next blink, it was gone. The window stopped shaking. The lights steadied. The room fell still, so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I searched the entire room, under the bed, inside the bathroom, behind the door. Nothing, but one thought wouldn't leave my mind. Still here, waiting. I stood there in the middle of the room, but it felt like the floor was shifting beneath me. Whatever had been outside the window had vanished, but its presence lingered, thick in the air, heavy, watching. Slowly, I stepped backward and sat down on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. My heart felt like it was trying to escape my chest. "Ethan, calm down," I whispered. "Just make it until morning." But the temperature in the room began dropping. Fast. So fast that I could see my breath forming in front of me. Like smoke. I looked toward the old thermostat mounted on the wall. The needle was moving, slowly sliding down. 65, 55, 45. I had never seen a motel room lose heat that quickly. And the heater wasn't even on. Something was draining the warmth out of the air. And I wasn't alone anymore. And then, the bathroom door slowly began to close on its own. I didn't even stand up. I just stared at it. It moved gently, deliberately, until it clicked shut. A few seconds later, I heard something from inside, like someone stepping into shallow water. That was impossible. I had checked earlier. The bathroom floor had been completely dry. I swallowed hard. "Hello?" I called out softly. "Is someone in there?" No answer. Just that same sound. Slow, careful, like something shifting closer. I grabbed my flashlight from the bedside table and forced myself to move. Each step toward the bathroom felt heavier than the last. My heartbeat was so loud I could hear it echoing in my head. I reached for the doorknob. It was freezing cold, like ice. I twisted it quickly and pulled the door open, then aimed the flashlight inside. No one. The shower curtain hung still. The sink was dry, but the floor was wet, not splashed, not leaking, wet, as if someone had just been standing there. My flashlight beam moved toward the sink, and that's when I saw it. Fingerprints, on the mirror, long, crooked, the same unnatural shape I had seen on the window. But this time, they formed a word. "R-U-N." I stumbled back. "What is happening?" My voice barely came out. As I turned to leave the room, the lights went out. Total darkness. The only illumination now came from my shaking flashlight. And then I heard it again. Footsteps. Inside the room. Not outside. Not in the hallway. Inside. Slow. Dragging. I slowly turned in place, sweeping the flashlight across the room. Empty corner. Bed. Table. Door. Nothing. Then suddenly, the bedsheet dropped to the floor. There was no one there, but it fell as if someone had been standing on the bed, and vanished. I was gasping now, barely able to breathe. My flashlight beam drifted toward the space under the bed, and I froze. Two glossy black eyes stared back at me, unblinking, the same thing from the highway, the same twisted shape. Before I could react, there was a violent scraping sound, like something launching itself forward on all fours. The bed jolted. The room shook. I didn't scream. Couldn't. I just ran. I yanked the door open and bolted into the hallway.